Agents Podcast.
How one ambitiously lazy geek created passive income in real estate without renters, renovations, and rehabs. That is the subtitle to his book called Dirt Rich. And our guest today is the author, Mark Podolsky, also known as the Land Geek, who is going to guide us on ways to create passive income. And for many of you in this real estate industry, a potential side hustle. And Lord knows we all need a little extra jack right now until this market turns around. So Mark, I am excited to have this conversation with you today, and welcome to our show.
Jeff, thank you so much for having me.
You bet, man. So let's kind of digress for a second and just tell us a little bit about who you are and what led you to where you are today.
Yeah, so if we rewind the tape to 2000, I was a miserable, micromanaged, 45-minute commute to work and back investment banker, specializing in mergers and acquisitions with private equity groups. And Jeff, it got so bad for me, I wouldn't get the Sunday blues anticipating Monday coming around and having to be back at work. I get the Friday blues, anticipating the weekend going by really fast and having to be back at work on Monday.
Ouch.
So my firm hires this guy, and he's telling me that as a side hustle, he's buying up raw land, pennies on the dollar. He's flipping them online, and he's making a 300% return on his investment. So I'm looking at companies all day long, and a great company, has 15% EBITDA margins or free cash flow. Average companies, 10%. I'm looking at companies all day long, less than 10%. So of course, I don't believe him. So I go to New Mexico with him. I got $3,000 saved up for car repairs. I do exactly what he tells me to do. I buy 10 half-acre parcels, an average price of $300 each. I flip them online, and they all sell for an average price of $1,200 each. It worked, 300%. So I took all that money and went to another auction. And this is in Arizona where I live, and it gets 2,000. There's no one in the room. I'm buying up lots and acres for nothing. I sell all that land, and I made over $90,000 cash. So I go to my wife, and she's pregnant. I said, honey, I'm going to quit my job and become a full-time land investor. And she said, absolutely not. So I said, okay. So it took about 18 months for the land investing income to exceed the investment banking income. And then I quit. I've been doing it full-time ever since. I've done over 6,000 land flips and counting now, and absolutely love it.
So we're rewinding the clock to 2001, 2 when you formally walked away?
2001 when I formally walked away.
Wow, man. You know, I've heard this story, not this specific story, but these stories where somebody walks away from their job. And I imagine being in the industry that you were in, you were probably paid pretty well.
I was paid pretty well.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. So what did that then time, what was kind of the progression from sometime in 01 to where we are today? Like what happened? I mean, you know, you wrote a book, you have courses, you teach this stuff. Tell us how it kind of went down.
Yeah. So the best way I could kind of explain it is there's this book by David Brooks called The Second Mountain. And so from 2001 to say 2011, I was a first mountain person. So I was listening to what society said is important. You know, get the education, get the good job, right? Get a nice house, get the cars, have the family, go on the vacations. And if you're lucky, you get to the top of the mountain. And I realized at the top of that mountain, it's very egoic. I wasn't happy. It wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't meaningful. So I skipped to the second mountain. And the second mountain is other focused. It's about purpose. It's about vocation. It's about religion, spirituality, your faith. It's about love and intimacy. It's a harder mountain to climb, but everything is other focused. It's a much more fulfilling mountain. So I would say that buying and selling raw land all those years and making money, it was great for about 5 people. But really helping other people to solve their money problems and their time problems so that they could create enough passive income where it exceeds their fixed expenses and they're working because they want to, not because they have to. has been infinitely more gratifying and more fulfilling for me.
Do you still today personally buy and flip?
My team buys and flips, and I am more in a CEO type of role. I don't get on the phone now with buyers and sellers. So I'm looking at it from a systems, processes. If you get a call from me, it's terrible because I'm breaking something. Like everything's working, and then it's like, oh, Mark, has thought of something, and now he wants to test this.
Of course, yeah. So take me back, because the way you described what you did while you still had another job, you made it sound incredibly easy. It can't be that simple, could it?
Yeah, so it's a simple model, but Jeff, you and I both know nothing worth doing is easy.
Right.
So let me walk you through the exact model so that you really have a really good picture of it. So Jeff, let's use you as a case study. So where do you live?
St. Louis currently, also Lake of the Ozarks, kind of equal time between the two.
Okay, so what high school did you go to? I digress. I'm from St. Louis. That's a total that's inside baseball, by the way. So, emos and Provo cheese.
Inside joke that unless you know, you have no idea why he just asked that question. Got it. Love it. Love it.
Okay, so you're in St. Louis. Let's assume that you own 5 acres of raw land in Colorado, and you owe $200 in back taxes. So essentially, you're advertising 2 important things. Number one, you have no emotional attachment to the property. You're in Missouri, property's in Colorado. And number 2, you're distressed financially in some weird way because you're not paying your property taxes. As a result, the county treasurer keeps sending notices saying, Jeff, you don't pay your property taxes, you're going to lose that property to a tax deed or a tax lien investor. So all I'm going to do is look at the comparable sales for the last 12 to 18 months on your 5-acre parcel. And let's say that the lowest comparable sale is $10,000. I'm going to divide by 4 and send you an actual offer for $2,500. I divide by 4 because that gets me a 300% margin of safety. Now, you get the offer of $2,500 and you accept it. Why? Because for you, $2,500 is better than nothing. In reality, 3 to 5% of people are going to accept my quote unquote top dollar offer. But now that you've accepted it, I have to go through due diligence or in-depth research. I have to confirm you still own the property. I have to make sure that back taxes are only $200. I have to make sure there's been no breaks in the chain of title, no liens or encumbrances. So out of this whole entire property report, I'm going to outsource this to my team in Jamaica. They're connected to an American title company. It'll cost about $11. Now, if I was investing more than, say, $5,000, I wouldn't take any title risk, and I'd close traditionally through a title company. But because this is only $2,500, I'll take a little bit of risk. It's probably not a long chain of title. And so I'm going to send you a check for $2,300, send the treasurer a check for $200. I own it free and clear. And now I'm going to sell that property 30 days or less. I'm going to make a cash flow like a rental home. So Jeff, I have a built-in best buyer. Do you know who it is?
Go on.
The neighbors. The neighbors. So I'm going to send out neighbor letters saying, hey, here's your opportunity. Protect your privacy, protect your views, know your neighbor. So oftentimes the neighbors will buy. Now, if they pass, I'll go to my buyer's list. The buyer's list passes. I'll go to a little website you may have heard of called Meta or Facebook, buy-sell groups, the marketplace. And then I'll go to the lands, landmodo.com, land.com, landandfarm.com, landsamerica.com, landflip.com, landhub.com. These are platforms for people who buy and sell raw land. But the secret is in the pricing. So all I'm going to ask for is a $2,500 down payment from my buyer, and then I'll make it a car payment. Let's say $2,500 down, $197 a month at 9% interest for the next 60 months. So it's a one-time sale. I'm going to get my money out on the down. Now I could go 6 to 10 months out. And then I'm getting $197 a month and 9% interest for the next 60 months. Jeff, no renters, no rehabs, no renovations, no rodents. And because I'm not dealing with a tenant, I'm exempt from Dodd-Frank, RESPA, and the SAFE Act. All this onerous real estate legislation. So then it's a simple game. Can I create enough land notes where my passive income now exceeds my fixed expenses, and I'm working because I want to, not because I have to.
Yeah. And you still own the property when you're doing this. So when somebody defaults, effectively, I don't know, maybe you have a percentage, you're doing it all over again.
Correct. So we use a land contract, not a deed of trust. So there's no cost of foreclosure. They have 30 days to cure their default. And within 30 days, they don't cure it. We go ahead and we resell that property. We get a new down payment. We get new monthly payments at a lower cost basis.
You almost hope that happens.
Well, I mean, it's not bad when it happens.
Yeah. What is the percentage of times that does happen?
It depends on the market. So in this current market, because we're not doing credit checks, it's 12%. I anticipate in a recession about 20%. During the Great Recession in 2010, 50% of my notes defaulted.
Wow. But you already had your money back, so you really had nothing to lose.
I had no debt.
Hassle. You had a hassle.
It was just, I write about this in Dirt Rich. I had what I call Parkinson's law of money. So the more money I made, the more money I spent. So, I had a mark problem, but the company itself was profitable.
Got it. So now what is the percentage of, and I think you might have already said this, but actually let's just rewind. Let me rewind back to the beginning. All right. So let's go back to the beginning, which is finding the property, finding the land.
Right.
Which sounds to me like you are somehow, you have access to lists that then share that a owner is in default or owes back taxes. And at that point, you basically present an offer to them or you approach them.
Right. So this is public information from the county.
Okay.
Now, the easy way to get it is just go to like datatree.com. If you want to save some money, go to datatree.com/the land geek. We got a special deal with them. And you can download a list from them. If you don't want to go that route, you can just go directly to the county assessor and ask them for a list. Or you could ask the county treasurer for the list of people that owe back taxes. And so this is public information.
And as it relates to, speculation, if you will, is there ever a time that you need to actually physically see the property?
So I think it's really interesting that you use the word speculation, because when I think of speculation, I think I'm paying 100% on the dollar for that asset because I'm thinking and I'm predicting that the market will continue to rise in that current market, and I'm speculating. Where we're making our money on the buy, and we have a 300% margin of safety. So nowhere in this process should we ever be speculating. We're absolutely knowing with certainty that we have a 300% margin of safety when we buy that asset. So I want to just clear that up.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So now I lost my train of thought. Now, wait, what was the question again?
Well, do you ever have to see the property? You have to ever have to physically?
No. So what we'll do is, using this principle of I can always make more money, I can't get more time, it's inefficient for me to go out and physically look at each property. So for $50, I'll hire somebody locally, let's say a local Craigslist gig. They'll fill out my property information. If it's an area I've never been to, I'll have them take pictures, shoot video. I'll have them use an app called What 3 Words, so we can gauge from them their GPS coordinates to make sure that they're close to the property or near the property.
Got it. Okay, so as it relates to, actually, you know what? I want to digress, and ask you, whatever happened to the guy that you learned this from?
So he's still doing the business.
Really?
Yeah.
So that which is kind of validation that there's probably a lot of business to be had in this world.
Well, I mean, this is a massive market, and that's why I teach it. Because when I first started teaching it, I was skeptical. My wife was skeptical. It's like, wait, why would I teach this to anybody? I'm going to create my own competition. And then so I put my investment banker hat on and just like, well, how big is this market? And so there's billions of acres of raw land in the U.S., and you literally could not think of a more boring real estate niche. You won't go on HGTV or the DIY network and see flip this land. The before picture is raw land. The after picture is raw land. And so if you go to a RIA meeting, a Real Estate Investment Association meeting, 100 people in the room, 99 of them will be flippers, landlords, and wholesalers. You and I would be the only land guys.
Interesting. So it's almost like a niche that is it's like going over people's heads. It's passing them by and they're overlooking it.
Yeah, because nobody needs it. We all need a place to live. But 99% of what we have in our lives, we don't need. We want. So there's a lust for land in this country.
Oh, there's songs about this.
Yeah, buy dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. There's songs about it. So it's just sort of the American dream. And oftentimes you'll hear people who grew up hearing from their parents buy land. And we all know when we're growing up, all that rural land. And, if you bought it 20 years ago or 30 years ago, it got developed and old Jeb's a millionaire. We don't have to wait 20 or 30 years. We can buy it now and make a cash flow.
Yeah. Well, what you just described there is more speculation. I'm going to
that's what I call the hockey stick model or land banking model. So if you do that, you are speculating because you're waiting for the path of growth. It could take years and years and years. There's no guarantee it's going to happen. So it remains flat until you get development, and then it hockey sticks up, and you're negative cash flow because you're paying the property taxes each year.
Okay, so as you're looking for this property and you're acquiring these lists, are you targeting certain geographic areas?
Yeah. I mean, Jeff, let's face it. Nobody wakes up and thinks to themselves, I'd like some raw land in Minnesota today, unless you live in Minnesota. So we want to focus on the Sunshine States, New Mexico, Colorado, Arizona, Nevada, Texas, California, a little bit in the Northwest, let's say Oregon, Washington, and then Florida as well. There's beautiful parts of the Midwest as well, but that's really going to get your biggest buyer pool is in those Sunshine States.
Even though your buyer pool, and that's going to be a question that I was going to ask, I'll ask now, oftentimes your first target is the neighbor. So therefore, it makes no difference what state or town or whatever you're in, because what percentage of neighbors ultimately buy the property?
So it depends on the area. So it just depends. Sometimes it's 20%. Sometimes it's you would mail the neighbor and say, I'm interested in selling, and it's more deal flow for you. So it's really going to depend on what's gone on in that area.
Okay. And I mean, regardless of rural versus more urban, there's always a neighbor. I would probably even argue a more rural area, a neighbor is probably more apt to buy it because they want to continue to just grow that land mass that they have that could be hunting ground, could be blocking out a neighborhood, could be, all sorts of things. Is there any rhyme or reason to that?
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't want to depend on one person or one demographic for that sale. So if I was going to use that strategy, I would do an option. And so I would tell the seller, hey, for $50 or $100, give me 3 months, 3-month option or a 6-month option. And you can keep that money, and I'm going to go ahead and market that property. And so then I would hit the neighbors. Now, if the neighbors say no, okay, no problem. I'm out $50, $100.
Yeah. It's fascinating. And so, okay, now we touched on the neighbors of all of the various, and you kind of went down kind of a list of who you ultimately will target. Which one tends to be the most, I guess, low-hanging fruit in terms of they will, you have the most success selling to that segment?
Yeah, so the most success is going to be the neighbor and the buyer's list. These are people that have already bought from you. They know you, like you, and trust you, or referral. Then it's going to be the land, because these are people who are actively seeking out land.
So you will accrue lists of people, and then you'll probably label them. Mark has bought a couple plots of land from me in and around Colorado Springs, Colorado, so I'm going to put them on my Colorado list.
Exactly. I could do that. Or if I was using someone like you to do social media, everyone who raised their hand and said, can you tell me more? I would ask, is it okay? Could I add you to my buyers list? Because these are people I have already identified as interested in raw land. So these are going to be your best buyers. But to your point, if I can bifurcate that list, or I can segment that list from people who have current customers to other people who are just prospects that I know are interested in that land, it's a different messaging when I email my list. I have property available. And then as you go down the line, the coldest leads are going to be the ones who I'm interrupting. And that would be in social media marketing.
Yeah. That's top of funnel. Now, as it relates to the buyer list, I know why a neighbor's buying. Why are buyers that are on this buyer list? What is their motive typically of why they're buying?
They're typically buying because they're either legacy investors, so they want an asset they don't have to maintain, can't be destroyed, it lasts forever, and they have in their imagination some use for it. Now, I don't know necessarily what that use is, but they have some use for it. Oftentimes, it could just be they're investing, or it could be they like the idea of hunting, camping, fishing out there. Maybe their kids do dirt biking. Maybe they have horses. So there's literally a pig for every barn. So I've never been stuck with a piece of raw land. They all sell at the right price.
Yeah, fascinating. And the truth is really anybody, including the neighbor or the people on the buyer list, could go find this themselves and do this themselves.
100%.
But they don't.
Right. In the same reason we don't do everything ourselves. We're finite human beings. We only have so much time, and you have a limit, right? So if you're really good at being a realtor, you're probably just going to be mastering your craft on being a realtor. You're not going to want to digress and say, oh, I can now learn this skill because I can. So we have infinite knowledge, but we only have so much time.
Yeah. Fascinating. So what have I not asked you in this regard? Because, and I think the obvious question, and I don't know that I want to get there yet, but it is, all right, you clearly have a system to this. So if somebody just wanted to plug into the system, what does something like that look like? But I don't know if we should save that more towards the end, because maybe there's some more important pieces to discuss of this process.
Yeah, I think your questions have been really good, actually. And I think we touched upon what most people are going to want to know is, number one, how do I do this? Number two is, why would anyone buy this? Number three, what's in it for me? And I think we touched on those points. I think it was an interesting point that I brought up earlier was, why is Mark doing this? Why is he teaching it? Because I'd be skeptical as well. So many times you see people online that, the gurus, right?
There's a lot.
There's a lot. And so you want to know, like, why are they doing it? Have they done it? Have people been successful with it? Do they have a track record?
Yeah. I mean, I can resonate with that, because I teach that with social, because there's so many gurus, in quote unquote. And I don't even consider myself an expert. I'm simply a practitioner who's had success, and I share my successes. I'm not trying to teach something that I haven't already done. And I think that's what I hear from you. It's like, hey, I just dug in, made a really great living at it, quit my high-paying job, decided that I really don't want to chase this forever, and so I decided to teach it. And I find more fulfillment in that, and figured out a way to probably make just as good of money doing that. And probably more scalable. Now, as it relates to the process, which is after you've now found the piece of land, which again, you're just doing it through lists. You're making phone calls. You had mentioned in the beginning going to tax sales. Is that necessary, or can all of this be done from our home office?
Yeah, really good question. I don't want to go to tax deed sales because they're competitive. I want to get that property before it goes to tax auction, in a tax deed auction. So that's why we're doing the letter writing campaign. And there's other ways to get deal flow. So I could buy from someone who's looking for the quick nickel instead of the slow dime from a wholesaler. So they sent out the letters. They did all the due diligence. They could create all the marketing for me, and they're going to mark it up 100%. They're leaving a lot of meat on the bone for me then to flip to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And so as we talk about that, as it relates to the process, and you mentioned the letter writing, so there's the writing letters to the current owner who is in default on taxes to basically just see if they want to make a quick buck, and you'll release them of this and get out of the way. And obviously you have to do your due diligence and make sure that there's chain of titles clear, all that kind of stuff. But so let's fast forward past that point. Now you struck a deal, you've written the checks, you own it free and clear. What is the next process, which I assume is also letters, maybe phone calls, obviously seeking out potential buyers, which includes neighbors, the list you have, social media, et cetera?
Yeah, exactly. So now we're going to go through our marketing process. So we'll send out neighbor letters. We'll begin emailing our lists, and we'll start using social media as well as land.com, the lands, to start marketing our property. And we're going to generate as many leads as we can. We're going to track it because we want to know, well, is our sales team doing a good job? So if I know that on average, it takes 50 social media leads to equate to one sale, and I'm not getting 50 leads, I know I need to change something in my social media strategy. If I know that it takes 3 leads on, say, a landmodo.com to get one sale, and I'm not getting 3 good leads, or I'm getting 3 leads or 4 leads, and I'm not being able to convert that to a sale, I probably have a sales problem. So I want to be able to diagnose, do I have a marketing problem? Do I have a sales problem if that property's not selling? And so the litmus test for me is it's 30 days. And so if in 30 days that property hasn't sold, using these systems and processes and everything that we teach, something has to change. So we need to isolate it. Does the price need to change? Does the down payment need to change? Does the headline need to change? Are people not clicking on it? And so these are all types of things that we need to isolate as we start working on our marketing. And then if we're getting enough leads and the sales team's not able to close them, I want to know what is going on. Are they not following up? Do they not believe in the property? There's some disconnect there. So we have those numbers, we can track those metrics, so we can diagnose why isn't that property selling?
Yeah. And when you use terms like my sales team, you know, speak to the person who might be listening to this thinking to themselves, I'm super intrigued and I want to try to do this on my own. I want to learn from you, but then I want to try to do it on my own. Now that's going to be a one-man band of writing letters and then acquiring and then doing research on title and then marketing. And so you were there at one point.
So I'm not going to teach you how to be a one-man band, because the last thing I want anyone to do is create another job for themselves. So I'm going to teach you how to use systems, processes, software, and automation so that you can build a real business that is predictable and scalable, and you're not creating another job for yourself. In the beginning, you need to be competent enough so that you know how long it takes to do each task, and then you begin outsourcing that to inexpensive virtual assistants. So out of the gate, 90% of this business can be automated with inexpensive virtual assistants and the software programs that we actually provide as well.
When you did this, did you have all this stuff, or you just had to do,
No, I actually write about this in Dirt Rich. I actually wrote Dirt Rich too. I created a job for myself, and it was a hustle, and I could see there has to be a better way. Yeah. But for me, as starting, I didn't know that I was building a job for myself. I just thought, oh, I don't have to go into that office. Yeah. I have a business. And then when I had a mentor and I told him what I was doing, who actually had a big business, he's like, Mark, you don't have a business. He's like, a business is something you build that's bigger than yourself. Steve Jobs dies, Apple doesn't die. He's like, what you're currently doing, you die, your family's in trouble because all they have is a bunch of land and no systems and processes to get that land sold.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. All right. So I mean, I don't know that we've left any stones unturned here. What is the thing that someone should do next if they say, I gotta learn more, and what does this look like?
Yeah, I think if this resonates with you, start getting educated and seeing if it really resonates with you. So I'm going to give you a link to get Dirt Rich, the book I wrote, for free, which gives you a high-level overview of the business, just like what we talked about, and the model. And then we help everyone along the economic spectrum. So if you have more time than money, we have lots of free resources. If you have a good job, or you've got more money than time, we have a done with you program. And if you're an accredited investor and you've got a lot of money and you have no time, then we have a done for you program as well.
Fascinating. And where can someone learn about all that?
So I think the best place to go is thelandgeek.com, thelandgeek.com.
Got it. And we'll also include a link in the show notes that they can get a free copy of the book, you said. Is that correct?
Yeah. Just pay shipping.
That's fantastic. Okay, awesome. And if somebody doesn't want to wait for that or is too lazy to go there and they're just like, yeah, it's just easier for me to go to Amazon. I got $15-20 to buy the book. Where can they buy it?
Yeah, they can get on Amazon for sure. And audiobooks, Audible, if my voice isn't too annoying.
It sounds very soothing, actually. It's the right voice, actually.
All right.
Maybe a different microphone. I don't know. A better microphone.
Yeah. I've got microphone in me. That's for sure.
Well, Mark, how would you wrap this thing up in terms of some parting thoughts? How would you like to depart from our audience?
So I love this quote from Zig Ziglar, which is, if you'll do for the next 3 years what other people won't do, you'll be able to do for the rest of your life what other people can't do. And what I love about that is that he's not saying 3 months, 3 days. It's 3 years. And so do you have the grit and determination to transform your life and give yourself 3 years to create enough passive income so that you can get sick, you can protect your family, you can live your best life and do that?
Yeah.
And so oftentimes, like we talked about in the beginning, it's a simple model, but it's not easy. And so I think having that 3-year commitment of making something work makes all the difference.
Yeah, that sounds pretty standard with pretty much anything anybody does in life, anything. And I say it a lot to real estate agents. Like, it doesn't matter how you do business, how you prospect, how you market. If you're not willing to commit the time, the money, the energy, and be patient, it won't work. And summarizing what I feel like you just said.
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So we gave them thelandgeek.com. If they want to follow you, connect with you on social media, or send you a message, what's the best ways to do that?
Yeah, so I'm the Land Geek everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, LinkedIn. You can find me.
I love it. And if they want to send you a message, what's the easiest way to do so?
I would say the easiest way to do that would be email. So just Mark, M-A-R-K, @thelandgeek.com.
Awesome. Mark, it's been fascinating. This is it almost sounds too good to be true. It sounds too easy, but
yeah, it's definitely not. It's definitely not.
I mean, I'd be shocked if there's not a few takers on something like this, because it does sound very interesting. And I for one, I'm going to go do some research and learn some more. And it's been great connecting with you, and good to know that we have something in common with the good old city of St. Louis.
That's right. I'm going to be getting some beef toasted ravioli tonight for sure.
In my honor.
In your honor. There's a guy here who's from South St. Louis, and his mom ships him the Provel cheese from the hill and the beef ravioli, and it's so good.
Yeah.
So
yeah. If you know, you know, and if you have no idea what we're talking about, then you're just going to have to come to St. Louis and find out.
Exactly.
Mark, I appreciate your time, brother. This has been fun.
Thanks, Jeff.
Lab Coat Agents Podcast.